Writing is the devil's game, my growth as a writer. Before writing this series, I wrote a novel. I worked on it for 6 years. The worst years of my life. As I sank deeper into alcoholism and became a pathetic trembling recluse, I held on to the novel as my one desperate hope. Maybe it would turn out well, maybe it would get published, maybe it would sell well, maybe my life would change, and maybe I would escape my stinking little apartment. What dreams I had! What desperate little dreams! But that was then and this is now. As my life got worse, I told myself I was on a journey of self-discovery, that I was an artist going through a period of struggle before my great breakthrough. Every famous artist has some story of living in a tiny apartment and working a mind-numbing job and eating crap food before their first big success. Surely this was just that part of my story. How much richer would my success be after all this pathetic degradation? After a night of writing, I would get drunk and imagine myself being interviewed in front of an auditorium full of my fans, telling self-deprecating but touching anecdotes about my ragged days before I became a literary success. The audience full of bookishly pretty young women would titter and sigh as they related to my struggles and admired my unwavering determination. What fantasies I had! There were other times when I knew that I was just comforting myself with delusions of grandeur, that I was trying to romanticize my lazy failure of a life by pretending to be a struggling artist on the verge of success. Really, I was just a lazy drunk on the verge of fuck all. I wasn't even some proud rebel drunk like Charles Bukowski. I hated myself. I didn't write enough or read enough or know enough or work hard enough to be a real writer. I had never read Anna Karenina or 100 Years of Solitude or anything by Henry James. I was often bored when reading and bored when writing. Did I even like it? I had half-assed my way through school and work and relationships. I had half-assed everything I had ever done, and I was even half-assed something that was supposed to be important to me. I hadn't even finished one novel after 6 years. And then there was the most damning evidence of all, my writing sucked. Or at least I thought. Sometimes I felt like I was fraud, sometimes I felt like I was on the right path, sometimes I felt like both of these things were true at once, like I was on 2 different timelines. My view of the matter changed often. At night, I tended to regard myself as being on the very cusp of fame and fortune. The next morning, I tended to wake up feeling like an untalented dilettante. Meanwhile, this supposedly temporary period of struggle stretched on and on and on. I turned 30. Surely something would happen by 40. But what if it didn't? As I withdrew from friends and co-workers and became more of a recluse, I rationalized it as concentrating on my writing. Except my busy schedule of drinking and hangovers didn't allow for much writing. The story of the struggling artist was showing itself to be a lie. Then I got fired from my job and sent to rehab. After I stopped drinking, I used my newfound energy and spare time to finish the novel. I finished it in a few months. You can get a lot done when you're not entering the void every night. For someone like me, the completion of a 6-year struggle is an occasion which simply begs to be accompanied by a drink, by many drinks. I had always planned to just go get drunk for an entire week after I finished my novel. Instead, I took a walk down to a nearby bar and stood outside of it for a while. I didn't go in. In my head, my life seemed to be developing into a new story, a heroic turnaround in which I got sober and everything fell into place. Yes, surely this was how it would go. I sent letters to 30 literary agents with the hopes of getting the book published. None expressed any interest. It hurt to be rejected. Even on YouTube at times, I had stopped drinking, but I still hadn't found a fulfilling job. I was able to talk to people and look cashiers in the eye again, but I was still a recluse. I had still invested a lot of desperate hopes into getting the novel published. I felt so foolish for investing so much hope into something that is just so unlikely, but I couldn't help myself. The lure of feeling some sense of purpose and accomplishment was just too much. I wanted to be noticed. Honestly, I wanted to be rich and famous. Don't most people? Though they may have been disguised as achieving artistic success and finding my purpose, perhaps my dreams were ultimately as crass and grasping as any Kardashians. I had given the literary agents 4 months to respond to me before accepting they were not interested. Soon after that deadline passed, I started writing this YouTube series. As you may know, a few websites wrote articles about the series, and some very lovely people created a very wonderful post about this on YouTube and Facebook about it, and this drew the attention of people in the publishing industry. They contacted me, and just like that, my long-held dream was again revived, and now it seemed more in reach than ever. I had been struggling to contact agents, and now they were contacting me. Oh, what a heady feeling! Again, it felt like everything was falling into place, like my life was shaping into a story with a happy ending. Speaking of endings, I needed to come up with an ending for the series before I could finally take my rightful place as leading light of the literati. A few people on YouTube had expressed doubt that I could possibly deliver a satisfying ending, and I was inclined to agree with them. I had already noticed that the story was easier to write when I was opening narrative threads than when I was wrapping them up. What would the overall ending be? It had to be about Mother. That was the center of the story. But what did I really know about Mother beyond a few vague memories? I had long puzzled over these memories. Back when I was drinking, I was convinced that something had happened to me one summer, something beyond my understanding, something monstrous. But after I got sober, I was encouraged to digest some hard truths about myself, and I decided that it was entirely possible that I had more or less made it all up. Not that I simply lied to myself, but more that I had latched on to some vague memory, perhaps a recurring nightmare, and built it up in my mind over the years, perhaps as an explanation for why I was so emotionally fucked up. It was easier to face life as a victim of some unknown, half-remembered evil. It gave me an excuse to crawl into the bottle. I needed to provide a satisfying ending to the series and to my quest to get published. Being intertwined, both of these tasks rested on a hazy collection of sinister memories. Then again, couldn't I just make some shit up? Hadn't I been doing that all along? Well, no, and I owed it to you guys, the ones that really like the stuff that we do. The solution presented itself to me one night when I was talking with my roommate. Others can't see him, and many call him Charlie. He told me that back when he was able to leave his body, he used to break into abandoned buildings to see if there was stuff to steal. He said that once he broke into a warehouse downtown and found a set of stairs that led to an underground room, which led to many more rooms that went deep underground. Over the course of a few weeks, he went deeper and deeper into the complex, taking various stuff, but always leaving quickly, because it was a spooky place. On the last night he snuck into the complex, he found a room where the walls were covered in human bone. I was 24, I am now 40, rendering back. It's a Friday night in early summer. The sun is settling down into a haze beyond the mountains, and the city's concrete is beginning to cool after a baking day. The signs for all the bars are on turning on. The windows of stolid office buildings become a wild collage of reflected neon. Yes, everybody wants to party tonight. Even the Central Insurance Bank is looking festive. Oh, you minx. I've drunk 6 beers. I am right in the zone. Active. Playful. Charming. Oh, so charming. I am actually charming myself right now with my internal monologue, reeling off clever little observations about the people who pass on the sidewalk. I can see a glowing doorway in my mind. All I have to do is walk through it. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Who's calling me now? Maybe it's my usual gang of friends. Or the Swedish friends I drank with until 6 a.m. last weekend. Or one of the dozens of girls who are saved in my phone with thoughtful pet names like Brown Hair 2 and Meaden Park. But I'm not going to answer my phone. I don't want to make any plans. I am simply going to walk down this street, and something is going to happen. Because the door is open. The world awaits. I stand by a food vendor and watch people pass. I smile, nod, make funny comments. Most people smile and pass right by. Others linger for a while. 2 girls and guy start talking to me. They're tourists from out of town. What are they looking to do? A nice place or just somewhere cheap? Do they like steak? I know just the place. Sure, no problem. And we're off. Soon we're sitting in a booth, and the steak is arriving at regular intervals, and I'm telling crazy stories and snapping off jokes, and I'm listening to them, and they're telling me about themselves, and one of the girls keeps glancing at me when she thinks I'm not looking, and I am 30, and I am in a darkened apartment, hunched over the glow of my laptop screen. I go to the bathroom to wash up, and there is that moment, that same moment, where I have to look at my blotchy face in the mirror and say, well, not my proudest moment, in my head, the same joke I make to myself every time. When I'm done, I stand in the doorway of my bathroom and look at the tiny studio apartment, a desk, a laptop, a futon, a small window with the curtains closed against the summer glare, a crowd of empty bottles on the floor by the door. The stink of old sweat and beer. I whimper. The door is closed. The door is closed forever. I am locked in this apartment, this little box, closed off from the world. The jitteriness starts to creep back in. Oh, nightmare. I want to drink, but it's only 3 p.m. I have only been awake for half an hour. I should wait until at least 8 before drinking. At least 6. But this is torment. I need some now or I will have some kind of fucking seizure. Just 2 shots, that's it, and then no drinking until. I am 33, and I am sitting in the 24-hour club, listening to a man talk about a mouse that changed his life. He had been living out of his car for a month, and it was so full of a trash that a mouse started living there too. This was this problem that finally broke him, that finally showed him the absurdity of it all, that finally made him get sober. How do you set mouse traps in a car? It's a pretty good story, but I've heard it before. Stolid Haircut walks into the meeting late again. I call him Stolid Haircut because I don't know his name, but he has a respectable Republican haircut, silver and grey and sculpted into broad curves that recall the body of a pre-gas crisis American sedan. He wears the uniform of a retiree, bright blue dad jeans with running shoes and white socks and a plaid shirt buttoned up to the next to top button. Stolid Haircut walks with the wide, clumsy steps of a hesitant toddler. Years of alcoholism have damaged his cerebellum, resulting in an abnormal gait. This and his reddened, venous nose make his weakness for alcohol plain for anybody to see. At a glance you can know his most painful personal shame. His lips are permanently pursed into an embarrassed smile. I watch him ease into the chair and go back to listening about the mouse and find myself looking at him again. Oh, tragic haircut. The haircut calls to me from some golden past. It is the haircut of a man who once was. In days gone by, it was thick and brown and belonged to a man who walked with a purposeful stride, a husband and father, the kind of guy who hoisted his son onto his shoulders to watch passing parades, who played softball and relaxed with a few beers after work, and a few whiskeys after that, but always woke up bright and early the next day, who worked hard, who knew who he was, who knew right from wrong, who know how the world ought to be. I stare at his soft, shining, embarrassed eyes and feel my own filling with tears. How it has all slipped away from him. The young son is grown. The job is done. The wife doesn't talk. Everything that was once strong and sure is now frail and shaky. How many nightmares has this ordinary man seen? I saw so many in just 10 years. And I am nowhere near the point of an abnormal gait. This man has seen unutterable things. How bewildered was he when it first came for him, the scuttling darkness. Did he think he was going mad? He comes from a generation where this sort thing is not discussed. How he must have suffered. Oh, haircut! Haircut. Haircut. Oh, the bleeding drops of red. I am staring at him openly. The rest of the meeting is not there anymore. A halo of light pours out around his face, and he becomes a vision. Doves and cherubim swirl around him, Escher staircases extend in every direction, mandalas expand and overlap and spin end. The door, my God! For a moment, the door is open again. Stay paranoid, my friends.